Hey everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Just Fade Us. We're just your average people who love competition and gambling. So tail us at your own risk or avoid the pain of a bad beat and just fade us all together. Either way, we hope you enjoy this week's episode. All right, so I guess we'll just kind of get right in, have some approaches. I'm trying not to spend a ton of money this week, so I'm going to go the slow, small, build upon snowball effect approach and see if I can get some steam going into next week. I think I've done pretty well with some baseball this past week. Every game I got right so far except for the Mets game last night, which I did have up until the ninth inning where they blew it. So unfortunately, as we were just talking earlier, I think the Brewers now move on to face the Phillies. So sorry, New York.
The Yankees are still there.
Yeah, they got an easy path too. So
Yeah.
real easy. So what's your approach this week?
I mean, oh my God. Cooked isn't even the word. Last week was I told you I was gonna get into a bunch of things of how last week was, but it's
Just get over it. At some point, you're just like,
yeah, so there's no point because I just think about it and it's like it's not, I saw I saw some woman on it's like a Joe Rogan clip on there, and I guess she wrote a book, and it's about like if you talk about your problems so much, they only
okay.
get bigger and bigger. So I'm in one of those scenarios where last week just destroyed me, like mentally, like everything just cooked me, and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm doing the same thing you're doing this week. It's gonna be this week though. I'm gonna put in a ton of Daddy Double L's.
Yeah, I'm with you because of all the sports coming out. I'm definitely joining you on there because I have some
Yeah,
questions about individual stuff. So
there's a great UFC card coming out. I see you got the hockey shirt on, so I know you'll touch more about hockey. Even though that starts on the 10th, I still might put in things for the 10th. I mean, there's one game on the 4th, but there's the regular season
the
is on
8th,
the 10th.
Tuesday.
What's that?
It's Tuesday, the 8th.
Is it the 8th? I saw.
It's
Okay, the 4th. Okay, I must have. I saw some teams are on at the 10th. So
yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna. So the way hockey's doing it is that the official season starts on the 4th, but they're still doing preseason games. There's only one series, and it's the Devils and.
I know. I'll pull it up right here. It's a good matchup
It's a
too.
good matchup. Buffalo, New Jersey,
Yep.
Buffalo, and they play in Buffalo for the first game on the 4th, and then they play on Saturday in New Jersey. So those are the only official games, and then the rest are preseason games, and then the official, I guess, rest of the landscape of hockey starts on Tuesday the 8th.
Yep. So
Kind of
to that point, now that I know, like I said, I didn't really look into it that much. This weekend will be a weekend where so you got your coffee. It'll be a early morning coffee. Might even do some yoga early in the morning, get my mind right, and I'm gonna put in a ton. I usually put anywhere between 7 to 10 Daddy Double L's, but this time I think I'm going to almost triple it. Like put in 30 to 50. So it's going to take about 2 days to do it. So I'll probably start tomorrow night, do some early Saturday, and then do some during like the evening on Saturday. But that's my approach. Like I said, take it slow. With the Daddy Double L's, I only have to put up anywhere between it's no more than $1, each ticket. So
yeah, I was losing, which has usually worked in the past, is like doubling up teams and teasing them and putting a lot more down. And that's just been killing me. It's been killing a lot of people. So I'm chilling on that because I don't really know what's going on. So I'll just build. What tends to work well is if I focus on one game and pick a side like on the spread and then pick a couple of player props. I tend to do pretty well. And then just do a bunch of individual games that way and see if I can kind of build up. So
you know how I like to bet on for basketball, like quarter bets, like over under for the quarter. So I mean, it was like European basketball, and I was just getting destroyed. Like, you know how many games, buzzer beaters, missed free throw at, with 2 seconds on the clock and forced overtimes, like all the scenarios that are highly unlikely to happen time and time again just happen. But when I looked at who was it yesterday? Did Liberty and Vegas play last night for WNBA?
They played the night before because remember I got cooked on the push. That push cost me $70.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, out of my bet
Mm.
because I lost the bonus that was tied to it. So even though I hit everything else and I won, they didn't give me the bonus that was added to it because I no longer fit the criteria.
A push should be so rare. Like a push should be rare, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But I was just furious over the weekend, and I was like, I'm gonna do something. So I started doing quarter bets for the WNBA, and miraculously, this hasn't happened in a long time. But I got every single quarter correct in terms of the over under, and I mean, all I literally did was just went in. I feel like there's some sports, and I know you listen to like the favorites, and there's another one where they bring this guy in where he talks about the like double not double A but the FBS, no, the FCS, college
Oh, it's
football.
yeah, it's like the is it on the Action Network too? Not the
And
main one. I think they do the group
yeah,
of 5.
it might be on Action. I don't know off the top, but it is on one of those known ones. It isn't one like in the cut. But I remember he was even saying he likes it because there's less Vegas tricks with the less popular
Popular
sports. Not saying
sports.
WNBA is less popular, but still it gets a lot less traffic still in comparison to whether it's gambling, attendance, and just like talk around the town, right? But so you're able to actually look at like more of those trends we talk about with records and times, or they're 0 and something on the road, or they're 10 and 0 at home, things of that nature. They seem to hit more with those sports that are less popular,
Mm.
so to speak. So it was interesting to see it with the WNBA because I do the same stuff with other sports. I just look at trends for the month, for the week, like how the team's performing, and I'll kind of just make a pick off of that. But um, it was interesting that I hit every single one just thinking like that. So now I'm like, okay, now I'm thinking about stretching because I usually don't put WNBA in the long leggers or look at you know, what's a FCS school? West Carolina A&T versus Marlboro State, Pennsylvania, or something like that. But now, if some of those teams come up on the app, I'll look a little bit more into those just to add some of those legs because they could be easy picks to add into there when you see some trends.
Yeah, I've actually been doing pretty good on WNBA as well, just in the season in general. I actually have been riding the Suns links under, and that's been cashing out like the total under. That's been cashing out this playoff series, and I've just been sticking with the better team on the Vegas and Liberty side, and riding the over on that one because they both have scoring powerhouses. I do think going back to Vegas, being down 2 games to Liberty, I do think they'll get out this win, but I don't think it's coming back to New York, just personally. So I think they win game 3.
You think they run it?
I think Vegas wins game 3, and then Liberty just ends it at game 4. I don't think it goes back.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I thought you.
Because overall, I do think Liberty is the better team, and they've played each other now. Vegas has only beat them 1 time. They've actually even only, I think, the one time they won, I think, is the one time they covered the spread. They might have covered it one other time,
Wow.
minus the push, which doesn't.
Payback from last season, right? Weren't they?
Yeah, they were in the championship last year, and it kind of went that way. Vegas took the 2 games, then Liberty won, and then
Does WNBA do it different to where it's not
yeah, I
about?
did the same thing. I was like, wait, shouldn't they be in? But I guess they just do top 8 teams in the
That's
league.
how it should. That's how it should be done. I think.
Yeah, instead of dividing it to because even if you think about baseball right now, I really think the American League is very weak comparatively to the teams that have to go up against each other in the National League, and that doesn't fit. Like you're thinking about the Dodgers and Padres both now. One of them has to leave early on in the playoffs because they have to play each other, whereas you get the Yankees playing Kansas City, like, and then they go on to either play Cleveland or Detroit.
You think Padres Yankees World Series or Dodgers Yankees?
I think the Yankees are going to be in the World Series. I actually really like Detroit in general. I told you I've been riding with them. I really do feel like teams with momentum, and the fact that they won 33 of their last 40 games to make it into the playoffs is just amazing. They don't have a great pitching core. You saw them playing a bullpen game the other day, but I think you can ride that momentum a lot. So sorry, Jason. I do think Detroit's going to be tough on Cleveland. It is a longer series, though, so that might come into play, right? Longer series with less pitchers is hard.
Oh, I love Detroit over Cleveland.
So yeah, I think I'm going to be just taking, because they're probably going to be the dog in most of the games. I'm probably just going to be hammering them. So I just think it's an easy, and then I think they're going to be exhausted by the time they get to the Yankees, who I don't think is going to have any trouble against Kansas City. And again, it just showed, the American East, even though that's my conference, and they always end up having at least 2 teams, if not 3 teams in the playoffs, they all go out in the first round. So it's like, there you go. Baltimore swept. Last year, Tampa swept. Blue Jays swept. They can't even make it out of the wild card round. So, I mean, anything can happen in baseball. That's why I like it. I don't actually think the favorites always win. That's what you saw with Texas last year. But I just think New York's too powerful to not make it on that side. And I do. I just, you see the Dodgers playing the Padres. I don't even know. I do think Philly is going to, whether it's Brewers or Mets, I think they're a better team. And you and I both have them winning the World Series. So technically, I guess we should make a bet on Philly and Yankees or Philly beating Yankees.
But you talked about momentum. Like, it's been so quiet for the Phillies.
But not really. They've been the most consistent team throughout the year. So I kind of like that too. I like consistency. So they haven't really had any ups. They haven't really had any downs. They've just been a consistently good team. That's why their odds for winning haven't really changed. They were somewhere between 450 and 500 the entire year. Remember, at some point I was like, I'm just going to wait till the Dodgers are full strength, and then they'll be like plus. I was hoping like a really high number, and they weren't. They just stayed at that.
I'm just scared now with like the acquisitions that Yankees have got, starting with Soto, and then they quietly got Grisham, and then Rizzo came back.
Well, Rizzo, I think is injured. I think in
Is
the
he
last
back
game
to
of
injury?
the last game of the season, I think he got hit he broke 2 fingers or something.
This guy can't catch a
He can't
break.
get no. So I'm not sure if he'll even be playing. I could be, maybe. I haven't followed up the reports. I just heard the last game they were nervous about him not playing because
You're right, because I don't really follow,
But yeah, I mean, the Yankee, and that's what's scary about the Dodgers too. They're almost full strength again, and that's what I told you, is that if they're full strength and Ohtani's on a super high, I'm actually really excited for the Padres Dodgers series, but I have no idea which way it's going to go.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it was last year. The Padres took out the Dodgers.
Yeah, early.
Whoa.
I think it was one of their first times taking them out. So I don't know if it's a payback or a continuation.
Yeah. Padres look good though.
So yeah, it's a fun time, especially for the daddy longleggers, because you can really kind of like fixate in on these couple of games. So
Yeah.
Well, I guess if we're talking about, are there any teams specifically? Like I said, I like the under the Suns game. I like the overs in the Vegas games. I like Detroit. We both talked about Detroit, so that's probably going to be on our betting card at the end. I guess any football kind of. I like the Saints against Kansas City. Again, I think they're like plus 5.5. It's a Monday night game, so another primetime game.
Is it in Kansas City?
It's in Kansas City, I believe, but they also don't have anybody. So
I like that. I like the Saints for sure there, because I feel like Kansas City at this time in the year, they don't play well at home.
They're also primed to lose because every single game has been super close. So even if they do find a way to win, which they might, they still fit this criteria. Patrick's as a favorite over 3, doesn't cover the spread. They're winning games by 1 point. They have to get super lucky at the end of games to win, and it's a good fade spot. They're a 4-0 team, and they, at some point you got to lose, and they're not, unless you're a dominant team, and they're not a dominant team where you're like, oh, wow, Kansas City's 5-0. They're not even considered in the top. I think people are always going to consider them a championship caliber team because they got coaching and they get Patrick, so you can figure it out. But I mean, nobody's really talking about them in comparison to Detroit and Baltimore, and even Washington now has taken the reins of like a top team. So
Yeah,
I'm definitely liking the Saints there, at least to cover at a minimum,
see.
if not pull the upset. So
So to answer your question about who I like, there's three games I like, and the third one I mentioned, I'm baffled by. So maybe something's going on that I'm just not aware of. But the first two that I really like is I like the uh, I like the Bengals over
I
Baltimore.
like the Bengals too. That was going to be on my
Yeah.
top. So I don't, even though they're on this list and I'm super nervous, I think this is, remember last week when you said, when I was like, I can't even, my future bet's fucked up already. And you were like, really? Um, if my future bet has any chance, they have to win this division game.
Yeah. I'm not convinced that the Cincinnati Bengals are as bad as their record shows right now. I'm just not convinced at this point. So I like them at home after an easy win against Carolina that they needed to kind of get things in gear now. Baltimore off a huge win against Buffalo, which I wasn't shocked by at all because I don't think Buffalo is a good team. I think Allen is just a great quarterback, but outside of that, I don't
He
think they're a
wasn't a
great
great
team.
quarterback in that game. I'll tell you that.
Right. And he's known to do this from time and time again. To just not have those consistent great games. But all right, so after Cincinnati, I like, and I don't care what anyone says, Jacksonville over the Colts.
You like
You have
Jacksonville. They have to win. I mean,
you
I
have
will say,
Joe Flacco.
Richardson's coming back.
What's that?
Richardson's coming back.
I don't even think he's like 100%. Be honest with you. And even when he was in there, and they weren't balling out like I thought they were. And honestly, they're a very young
They're a
team
young
from
team.
what
He's a young
I've heard.
quarterback. He missed half the season last year.
Isn't he like 22 years old?
Yeah, and remember he got injured really early last year, so
Yeah.
he's not even played
So
that many
he's
games. You can tell
so
when he's playing.
they have potential, but this is Jacksonville at home against a division team, and I don't see them going 0-5 right now. I just don't,
And
and
they actually
especially
looked pretty good against Houston.
yeah, and they played tight against Houston, which I actually won them in a teaser last week, and then blew the whole teaser up. But I really like Jacksonville here, and I'm taking them teasers, daddy long leggers. I'm not even putting Colts in one at all. I'm taking Jacksonville. And then the third game, which I'm scratching my head at, is the Cowboys are dogs.
Yeah, they don't have anybody. Their defense is beat up. They're all injured, and their offense looks like crap. So
Not convinced.
I'm also very torn about this game because this is one of those things where I'm like, you think Dallas should come through. This feels like that game one, week one. Remember, we were like, why is Dallas dogs? But listening to a lot of people, they all like Pittsburgh. And I don't know if it's the matchup is just conducive to Pittsburgh. I know it's in Pittsburgh. It's in Pittsburgh, but also Dallas has a really good away record. So I don't even know. I don't even honestly know where I would bet on this game. I might just stay away from it. Like,
I
I
can't.
think I
I
did
can't.
tease Dallas because even if they lose, I don't think they get blown out by Pittsburgh.
By
Pittsburgh's not a
touchdown.
blowout team.
It's a 1 point game, and that's crazy to me. I'm sorry, I can't. Especially the way this season is going. Like, I mean, one of the who's the top quarterback right now? Sam Darnold,
Sam Darnold, I think.
Minnesota Vikings, who
Jaden
got
Daniels is up there. That he's having a. They were already talking about an MVP caliber year. And I know
yeah,
Gino's having a good year as well on Seahawks.
not convinced. I'm not going for it. I don't like it.
So you're gonna stick with
It's
Dallas.
yeah, those three teams I'm going with for sure. The only one I might not put in everyone is Cincinnati because that's that
It's
that could
risky.
go.
They're playing a yeah.
Yeah, it could go, but I really do like Cincinnati, so they'll be taken in there. And The rest I'll just kind of play by ear as the weekend approaches. But I
Yeah,
like those three the most.
I feel
And
like
I
actually
like
like the Raiders.
You said the Raiders over Denver?
Um,
I don't know. I don't know. That one,
I think I like that I'm getting points with them. I don't. They've been surprising this year. Um,
I'm I'm just upset. I'm more upset with the Jets when I'm upset with Denver because I really had a good Survivor going, and I don't know why. And I told you already about the day on Sunday. I switched it maybe an hour or so before the game to the Jets. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take the easy win right now in Cincinnati because week 4 is a trippy week. And which I don't think it was trippy, but in terms of teams I had available, and also I didn't want to take I didn't want to take the big names yet. So I was like, I'll take Cincinnati because they're 0-4 or
yeah, it's
0-3.
a good time to try to get them.
Yeah, so I was like, let me just take this and then breathe until next week. And then this week, I feel like I have so many options. I'd probably take Jacksonville this week just as a risky one, but there's some options. Even Cowboys, I'm
Yeah,
thinking of
because now
taking.
you don't have the risk in our league because you're at 2 strikes, so you have to like get it correct now.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, but the Denver now up against Vegas,
Here's the
and
thing with Denver. Denver's coming off a really big win, and then they ended up beating the Jets, which I really should have added the Jets to the trash list because that really did kill a lot of people. And the way that they lost, Bo Nix threw for 60 yards. I need people to understand 60 yards and won a game.
that's typical Jets
And the
stuff.
Jets lose because they can't kick a 28-yard field goal
Well, prior to the final one,
prior to the final one.
got you. Yeah,
And so I just it to me it's a good time to be like, okay, and I understand playing in Denver is hard. I do think it's gonna be a low scoring. Honestly, if anything, now that I've just talked myself into, I'll probably take the under in that game rather than the winner. But if I can get 3 points on the Raiders, I'll take 3 points on the Raiders.
honestly, I back you on that. I don't have an opinion about the
Maybe
game.
not if it's 2 or 1, but if it's a field goal, I'll probably take the Raiders.
35, 4 o'clock in Denver. That's why I like it. I think Denver plays great at the 4 o'clock spot at home. And I won't even say clearly they didn't play a great game against the Jets. Just played a terrible
No, they
game.
didn't play a good game against the
They
Jets. It was so
played
bad.
so the Jets couldn't move the ball. They could do absolutely nothing against Denver. It was so embarrassing. I was sitting there just watching the game. You should have saw the place I was at. It was just like there was nothing. There's honestly each week now. There's not been those moments where it's just been the game breaks and the touchdowns or the crazy plays going back and forth. It seems like the games are just boring. Like there's touchdowns, but they're so spread out to where it's just not. They have to me they haven't been exciting weeks
Yeah.
at all. So it's just been boring, and the Jets was the epitome of how the season's been going. It's just slow. There no scores, penalties,
There's a
and then
lot of penalties.
yeah, and then you got all these dogs that are covering and winning against teams that are, if you look to pick them odds for Super Bowl, they have some of the best odds to win, and they're getting beat and they're getting embarrassed, and it's just so silly. And then you got the Vikings, who are the best team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and they actually are getting. They're playing the Jets, right? Away, like overseas. And
Yep.
so it's actually like a really good time to fade Minnesota, except they're now playing in Europe
Yeah.
like spots basically. So,
I'm taking the Jets there. I'm gonna keep fading Minnesota until
well,
my
yes,
heart
because that's what
explodes.
you've been doing, and you should stick with what you've been
Yeah.
doing.
Until my heart
But
explodes. I'm
also the
taking
Vikings now, what are for the first time the favorites?
barely. It's essentially it's a pick 'em.
Oh, it's a pick 'em now. It was 2.5 at some point.
Yeah, it was. You're right. It was, but it's coming down.
That means, yeah. So a lot of people have been betting on who? Who does that mean? The Jets?
That yes, that would mean that yep. So they're trying to get you to take Minnesota. I like Cleveland against Washington. I'm sorry, I don't. Washington, they can.
If If
I'm not
you
being
get them
fooled.
at 3.5, I like Cleveland. I like over the field goal. If I'm under the 3, I don't
Yeah.
know if I could take Cleveland. They're just
They
really
beat the
bad.
Giants,
Cleveland's really bad.
Bengals, and Arizona. And Arizona typically plays great at home, but you know what? They played 3 at home, I want to say. So it's like you can't win them all at home, Arizona. So, yeah, 3 at home. Rams played a close one with Detroit and then got blown out by Washington. That's the funny thing. You play 7-point loss against Detroit and then you get blown out by
Arizona,
28, 4 touchdowns.
by Arizona, yeah. I'm actually going with the Rams. They're at plus 3.5 too, and I'm gonna the same thing that you said. You're gonna keep fading the Vikings. I'm gonna keep riding um, the Rams.
You're going with the Rams? See,
Oh.
I was gonna go Green Bay. So Jordan Love's first game back, it was like disgusting. But and it was against Minnesota. So I like Jordan Love here, especially at a 3. It's like,
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it depends on the number, that's when I was originally looking at it, it was 3.5. So
yeah,
if I'm getting it at over a field goal, I'm going to go with the Rams. The Rams really should have covered against the Bears, except they took out Williams and started running somebody else, and I was like, what are they doing? And then they wasted like a whole quarter.
yeah, making sure Vegas gets its money. That's what they're doing.
So yeah, that's what they're ensuring. So yeah, if it's under 3, I'll go with Green Bay.
I see. Okay, fair,
So
fair, fair, fair.
I'm trying to learn how to appropriately bet on these football games. Take us to the next level, Byron. I'm trying not to be just a fan of the game.
Listen, you hit one good one. That's all you need. You can be wrong a million times.
Yep.
Little Giants.
I didn't really look too much into college football. I don't know if there's any that you liked. I did see the SMU is catching 7 against Louisville.
Love
And
that
I do
SMU.
really like that. I like
Yep.
SMU, and I think that they are very competitive. They're a high scoring team. I like their offense, so I'm going to take them there. And I saw that Clemson is 2 touchdowns above Florida State. So my two my two shit teams are playing each other, and I think Clemson, like you said last week, has kind of been on a upward trend where Florida State is really at a like a high all time low. So I think I'm going to
Florida.
take the points. I think I'm going to take Clemson to cover on that.
Yep. I'm I'm with you on both of those. I loved SMU the most. And one of my little sneakies, this is stupid. This is probably why I get cooked and I just get so mad. North Carolina at home against Pitt. Pitt 2.5 point favorites.
Ooh, I like you're going North Carolina.
I think so.
Yeah, I like that too. I don't really,
Because
who's Pitts to get points on anybody this year?
well they're 4-0 and
One of
what
them they shouldn't have beat the Bearcats. I'm not.
they had a
That's my
yeah, they beat
they
2 big wins, Cincinnati, West Virginia, who I call West Virginia. I'd call them more competitive than I can say good, if
They
that
those
makes
are some late. They stole those games. That they're basically playing similar to Kansas City. They
yeah,
got some luck. They had to have a comeback against West Virginia. They had to have a massive comeback against the Bearcats. So
they did.
basically, the West Virginia and Bearcats lost the game. They
Yeah.
didn't win. They lost the game. So two of
Okay,
those
I like
teams.
that. So I'm not crazy. Yeah. North Carolina, they beat Minnesota by 2. The next 2 games are irrelevant in my opinion. You get blown out by James Madison, and then you lose by 1 to a hometown rival, if you will, with Duke. And then now you have Pitt. So I feel like Pitt should have been maybe like 3 or 4 point favorites, but they're 2, 2.5. That's screaming North Carolina to me. So I gotta go. I have to go North Carolina in every ticket.
We in every ticket. I'm gonna avoid every tickets, but you got to put it because the thing is you can't create 30 different combinations of things and not overlap because then you won't have enough
Yeah,
to
you
go
yeah
get
you
around. So
have
you do
to.
have to.
But,
It just depends on how much you're putting down. If yeah,
well, that's why I
putting
said
ten
I'm
cent bets,
really
you can do it in combinations. But if you're putting bigger bets, I wouldn't put it in everyone.
right. I mean, so the key to the long legger is you have to cross sports put together a solid. It sounds crazy, but you have to put together at least a solid 8 to 12 ticket. Like meaning every single pick for the most part with little variation, right? Because then that means as soon as you do one variation, that makes 10 more tickets. So if you could actually not even just study, but just look at what really looks good, the signals, and I'm talking all sports. You talked about baseball, hockey, WNBA, NFL, college football, UFC, and it's like, can I grab 2 to 3 from each of those sports and build just a solid ticket, and then from there you can start swapping other picks out to build that bigger, 16 to 20
Funny, yeah.
leg.
Try to gain some
And then,
momentum.
right. So then from there, it's about, you still pick what you like and what's reasonable, but then also it's like, okay, this one I'm a little fishy about, so I'll take Baltimore in a couple tickets, and then I'll take Minnesota in a couple tickets, just so I'm covering myself and not hating on them the whole time. But yeah, so that's the goal: build like a 8 to 12 legger that is in essentially every single ticket, and then you start scrambling from there and like doing variations. And because all you just need one ticket. Like out of the 50, say I put in, I just need one. I don't need 10 of them to hit. I need just one. That's it.
Have you thought about any? I know we talked earlier about just sort of hockey coming in general, but did you look into any games there or no?
I didn't look yet. Well, just because I thought it was going to be a week
Oh,
later.
louder.
And I know
Yeah.
I mean,
Your
it's only 2
basketball
days.
starts, I think, on the 10th. I think the NBA starts on the 10th, somewhere around there.
Really?
So we got that coming up soon too.
Let's see. Um, oh
Or maybe
yeah.
a little later. Maybe preseason just started. It's coming up soon.
Oh, the Cavs' first game is the 23rd, so I think it's
20th.
somewhere around.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere around.
Well, I didn't really look too much into it, but I did look at the Bruins' first game, and they play the Panthers' first game. Fucking Panthers. Our reigning champs over here. And they always play each other really close. I don't actually know who's favored or who. I'm assuming the Panthers are favored. So I just told myself I'm going to take the run line of whoever's the dog because they typically play each other close. It's the first game. It also depends on if Swayman, the goalie for the Bruins, his contract isn't re-signed, and I think he's on a holdout. So I think that matters as well. So that will come into
Gotcha.
play. And then just a quick note, in case you want to know about our Sharks. I looked into them a little bit. They lost 4 of their last 5 at the end of the season, and they are 1-3 in preseason, and 2 of those they've lost by 2 or more. So I'm jumping on early this year of betting everybody but the Sharks. So whoever the Sharks are playing, I'm taking. I'm not. I don't want to. I don't want to lose that bandwagon of last year when we caught on 10 games later, and all of a sudden they could win.
So the Sharks, San Jose.
Yeah. So I'm looking at them to be a loser team again. We'll see how that goes, but that's what I'm just kind of looking at
I'll
early
be
on.
right on the boat with you. And I'll look this up probably early Saturday morning. Who is this Utah team?
Oh my God, I got to tell you. So today I was looking at the hockey slate and I go, who the fuck is Utah? Because the logo, first of all, the logo is ugly. It's just, and then not only is the logo, they're called the Hockey Club.
Yeah, so
They're
who
called Utah Hockey Club. So I looked it up, and I'm actually kind of sad. I'm sad for Arizona. They're the Arizona Coyotes.
I was gonna ask, did a team get
Yeah, a
like
team got
Washington
replaced.
Commanders
That
or
was my
something?
next thing that I looked up is did they replace a team? And it was a late replacement. So in April, it became known to the public. I actually didn't even hear about it. And so
What happened?
I have no idea. I didn't look into that far, but I just saw that in April, they made it public last minute that the Arizona Cardinals would be no more, and they are now the Utah
Hockey Club.
and what's the city in Utah? The
Salt Lake?
Yeah, Salt Lake City, Utah Hockey Club. The Hockey Club. That's the best they could do. That's like the Washington Commanders, the Cleveland Guardians. That's the best you guys can do.
Well, this one's worse because at least it was the Arizona Coyotes. It wasn't like the Arizona like Redskins.
Yeah,
You
they
know what
could
I
have
mean?
just used the Coyotes again. Just when Utah
Right.
Coyotes.
There's definitely the fucking salt pillars or something. Something. Like it's
Yeah,
Utah.
salt pillars, mountains, Utah mountain. I don't know, make something.
Yeah,
Utah salt.
Yeah.
Anything but hockey club.
Oh my god.
Anyways, so we've been recording for quite some time. We haven't even gotten to our segments, so I don't even know if we want to get into them. Do you want a specific Miller time?
No, honestly,
We can go.
no. So I mean, the only thing I'll say for Miller time is just some one thing I'm looking out for to keep is so all the like the baseball lines I spoke about before with. So for instance, tonight, why I'll just give this as one example for my time right now, but and I might do this live. But the reason I like Milwaukee tonight, not only just because of so many other things and them maybe being the better team, but back to like the trends we talked about, to best of best of three. So it's a 3 game series like it typically is in the regular season. And what happened in game one was Milwaukee was the favorite and they lost, right? They lost to the Mets, who were the dog. And then next game, Milwaukee wins as favorites. And then today, Milwaukee's favorites. But here's the trick I think Vegas does. They start them out at, so yesterday Milwaukee was about minus 142. Today, Milwaukee, from when I saw it this morning, they were like minus 130 or minus
It was
125.
30 when I saw right before the game.
Yeah. So something around there. So it's a little bit lower, right? So at first it makes me think like, I don't know, like, Mets, they played a good game one. But then it moved right before the first pitch. It moved down to almost the even line. I saw minus 110, minus 115. So I think Vegas is trying to get you to think the Mets, but I'm not. This is something you see all the time with these line movements. It's they got beat the first game as a heavier favorite, and then they come back as a little bit lower favorite and win, and then now they're trying to push that even line to try to get you to take Mets. And I don't think that the dog wins. I don't think the dog wins again like that, given that they didn't just sweep them, if that makes sense. Like Detroit handled business as dogs.
Yeah, and the Mets should have handled business, and they didn't.
Right.
And that's where you
Exactly.
messed up because now you are really the dog going
Yep.
into a third game away
Mm-hmm.
with the not, even though he's holding up right now, but I would say Milwaukee has the better pitcher on the mound. But they're in a tie 0-0 score game right now. I actually thought this game would go over, so I don't know if
Me
it's
too.
got boom late. Contreras is 0 for 2, so I've hit 2 of the legs. So if I think I'm one strike away from there, but hopefully he can just, like I said, he'll get a couple more at bats. Hopefully he can get into one so I can get that. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I'm with you. I think the the Mets kind of blew their chance, and that's why I personally was fading the Mets at this time and
Yeah.
saying instead of, because I've been pounding the dogs all along right now, except for the Padres. I didn't see Atlanta being able. You and I both talked about that. We did not see them having to do what they had to do to even make the playoffs to then go out west. And
The
they
next
played.
day.
I guess they played them closer last night than I thought, but I think the Mets blew their chance, and so I wouldn't be surprised if they lost them at home tonight. I do think they're the better team, but I think when you are a dog and you have an opportunity to close out, you have to close out.
Right.
Like you said,
And
Detroit took care of business, and Kansas City took care of business. There was no hesitation.
yep,
So
you're right about that. Right. And that's the like the momentum standpoint. And that's where like you see, a signal with lines like that to where I feel like it's telling. I'd say Milwaukee confidently. I know it's 0-0. We'll see what happens, but I honestly would be shocked if Milwaukee, just based off line movement and then on top of everything you just mentioned, if Milwaukee loses this game. I'd honestly be shocked.
I,
And then I'm looking at what you're essentially doing for these next series of games is more so the dogs and not except the Padres. I think the Padres continue to go on, but Detroit, I'm loving, and whoever the other dogs are, honestly, I like the dogs right now until the next
so you
round.
like the dogs against, you like KC against Yankees.
Is that the only other
That's
game?
it. It's short. Now it's KC against Yankees, and it's Milwaukee or Mets against Philly. The only real dog is going to be Padres. They're not going to be favored against the Dodgers.
I mean, I like Kansas City to get one.
I like Kansas City to get one. I don't think they
Yeah.
get swept.
Nah, yeah, I like Kansas City to get one,
But
and preferably the one where they have the highest, or yeah, where they have the highest odds. That's the game I like them the most. When they're plus 250, that's when I like Kansas City the most. So that's what I'm looking out for.
all right, I'll keep mine short then, just to wrap things up. So for TDs, I didn't get to Williams at 2 touchdowns. He got one last week, but I'm
Mm,
gonna, I think, look back at, he's plus 270. He's like minus 400 to get a touchdown, and then like plus 270 to get 2 touchdowns. So looking at that, and then I do like Diggs on a revenge against Buffalo to get a touchdown, and I think he scored in one every game. He's at plus 140. I like Stevenson to get a touchdown against Miami at plus 120.
that's a good one.
And then, like you said, with the way that the Packers have been playing, Reed is minus 115. I'll think about that. I don't know if that's a positive, like what I'm,
Is minus
but
115. Wow.
but I do think he's going to shred up the Rams in the air. So I do like that too. But Stevenson and Diggs, I'm really feeling this week. So that's where I'll go there. So we'll
I
wrap it
like,
up nice and short.
I like the both of them. I like the both of them.
All right. So I guess to close out to everybody, if you've made it this far in our big rant around all the sports that are coming up, and soon we'll have the NBA coming into here. We are betting together. We like the Saints at the +5. Actually, we like them anywhere as bigger dogs. We like the Bengals at +2.5. We'll take them regardless. We really like SMU catching the points on Louisville. I'm going to jump on with North Carolina at +2.5 with the Pitt. And so those are our like we really like and we're going with. And then the ones that we are also betting, but you know, there might be some hesitation. You might want to fade us. You might want to fade us on
We probably shouldn't do it, but we're doing it.
Dallas
Yep.
at +2.5 because it just doesn't make sense.
Yep.
And the Jags, what are they now?
-3.
-3 now. Oh, I like them even better now that they're -3. I was nervous when they were -4.5, but if they're -3 now, that means the money's been coming the other way. But that only makes it into our favor.
Yep.
The
Love the
-3.
Jags.
So liking it there. And then, are you still with me on the Raiders? Only if they're plus more than a field goal. If they're under a field goal, we'll go with Denver. So, but more than a field goal.
I'm riding with you. The week I had, I'm riding with you.
Even though Adams is up on the trade block, I don't know if you knew that, but Devontae
Yeah, I saw
Adams.
that. Yeah.
But that sometimes does boost stuff because you don't know what's really going on in locker rooms and stuff like that.
If he goes to Dallas, that would be.
He goes to Dallas. I think he came out saying he wants to go to the Jets because of Aaron Rodgers.
That would be fire. Actually,
that would actually really.
If not Dallas, then the Jets. I approve.
I approve. There we go. Stamp your approval. All right, everyone. So yeah, that was our episode. Those are our bets. Fade us at will. Tail us at will. They're your bets, not ours. Well, they are ours, but in our own bank account.
Fade us every time, please. You will make
Avoid
money.
those bad beats because we get them as bad as they come.
I made someone rich last week. I know I did.
All right. Till next time.
Fade us.